So the Bone Temple released the other day, and I thought it's only appropriate if I give my thoughts and reactions. This is the first horror film that I'm covering on this channel, and to be honest, I'm not a big horror guy. My biggest insight in horror and the most horror I digest is through James A. Janice, the GOAT. But when my friend said, let's go watch the new 28 Years Later, I said, okay, I will be there. I watched the first 28 Years Later the day before, and oh my god, it was so good. It was one of the most touching and brilliant films I've ever watched. I mean, Danny Boyle's style of editing and camera work is just so raw and unique. I mean, it's Marmite, but I loved it. The reason I bring up the first film is because my issues with the first are the same as my issues with the second. I'm not a huge fan of the first hour of the first and second film. In the first film, for the first hour, it's just like decent. And then as soon as Dr. Kelson turns up, it's incredible. The new film is pretty similar. The Bone Temple shows two separate plot lines. One showing how people can turn evil and nasty and selfish after the infection, and the other shows a glimmer of hope and how helping people is still around. With the Jimmies, I get the reference as a Brit to Jimmy Savile, and it makes every scene with the Jimmies so much more uncomfortable when you get that. This film puts Spike in much more of a backseat than the first film, which could be a big problem because I loved Spike's journey in the first film. I think it was such a great story, and he's such a good actor. However, I would be more annoyed if it wasn't for the fact we focus on two of the adult characters. Jimmy Crystal and Dr. Kelson are so good, not only because they're such interesting and well-written characters, but also because of the actors playing them. I've said it before with my initial thoughts, but Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell, everything they touch in this film turns to gold. They are so good together. While I loved the Samson and Kelson scenes, I got ultimate tonal whiplash every single time we swapped back to the scenes with the Jimmies. Every single scene with them is so uncomfortable, and that barn scene, I mean, oh my god. It's the most disturbing and graphic thing I've seen in my life, and was the most uncomfortable watch of my entire life. While I get it's the point when you're supposed to feel uncomfortable by these atrocities they're committing, I think it was a bit too much for me at points. I think I mainly didn't enjoy that scene as much as I would because I had no idea the direction the story was going to go in at that point. At the time, it felt like just horrific violence for the sake of it. I was like, this is going on for too long, and it does not feel important to what's going to happen. But from the gruesome barn scene came one of the best parts of the film, and it was the relationship between Jimmy Inc. and Spike. They helped me stomach a few of the Jimmy scenes just because it was a bit of hope and a bit of actual care that Spike received. And Spike, you know, we learned to love him after the first film, and it's just seeing what he has to go through in this one is so tough. Like the first film, it was pretty good, but once we got to the two plot lines merging, that's when it became so good. The Samson stuff with him being temporarily cured from the virus was beautiful. But like I was saying, once Jimmy and Kelson meet, fireworks. We see much more of a proper side to Jimmy Crystal, more than this cultish leader. We see him more as an actual human, which is really refreshing to see, and also the two actors do an incredible job. It is one of those rare scenes where every single word you cling to, even if they're not talking about anything that important. Ralph Fiennes delivers every single word with grace and class, which makes Kelson such an interesting character. And Jack O'Connell, I mean, everything he says is delivered in such a strange, unique, odd way. And sometimes he's actually hilarious in that scene. Even the moment before, when you can clearly tell he's just making stuff up as he goes about old Nick, and it's so great. But after the two talk, the best scene in the film starts. Kelson's performance was absolutely batshit. Ralph Fiennes went all out and gave ultimate theatre energy, and in that scene, I absolutely loved the moment where Kelson realised Spike was the kid in the mask. Once he lifted the mask and saw Spike, he changed his mind, and it just showed his incredible sense of right and wrong, which the Jimmies completely have a disregard for, which proves Kelson is the freaking man, alright? Also seeing Jimmy Inc.'s change of mind and realizing every single thing she's done up to this point, her whole life's purpose has literally been for nothing. She realizes there's no devils, it's just us. I really love the bit of symbolism as she takes off a Jimmy wig and she reveals to Spike that her name's Kelly, and it just symbolizes her, she's leaving that all behind her, and she's going to move on as her actual authentic self, and I really like that. Jimmy Crystal getting crucified is literally everything I could have ever wished for, but sadly, the GOAT Kelson was stabbed to death, which I'm not happy about, because he's not in the third film, even though he's the best character in this franchise by an absolute mile. And you're probably thinking, how can they do a third film if their two heavy hitters are dead? Well, spoiler alert, Cillian Murphy is back, baby, he's back. The tease for the third film is super exciting, especially if, as it seems it will, the film will follow Spike, Kelly, and Cillian Murphy's character Jim. I also love that the film ended with the line of Jim saying, of course, that they're gonna go help Spike and Kelly, which is such a difference to all that we've seen throughout the whole film with the Jimmies, who are so selfish and do not care about anyone, and at the first moment Jim is there to offer help. I mean, overall this film was batshit, and there was so much going on. Incredible performances and needle drops are key highlights for the film for me, and while it isn't as good as the first film, I am absolutely loving this franchise, and I cannot wait for the third film, especially after that teaser at the end. For me, 28 years later, The Bone Temple will get a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, let me know what you thought about the film. I thought it was so good. 7.5, it seems lower, but I promise you that's a good score. That's like, I would watch it again, as much as it's pretty tough to stomach at sometimes. If you enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. I mean, it's literally free. You can always unsubscribe later, and it means the world to me. As always, stay safe.